Google thinks it's smarter, but it's actually not.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of our AARRR Moments podcast with me, Kobi Omenaka. My guest this week is Christina Brauer from PPC Agency. Christina is a PPC and Google paid ads savant.
As I get really excited about complex products and complex audiences, so you're like, here's a toothbrush. I'm like, meh.
And she works primarily with B2B companies.
And I'm like, and what do customers say? And they're like, we must go find out. And I'm like, you must go find out yesterday.
Must go find out.
It's important.
We talk a lot in this conversation about the differences between B2B and B2C campaigns when it comes to Google ads and paid search in general.
I mean, I've never tested PMAX on my own B2B clients because that's like malpractice.
Of course, we go into Christina's aha moments, and I really like her personal aha moment, the one right at the end. So stick around, make sure you get to that. Christina, thank you so much for joining me on the AARRR Moments podcast. How are you doing?
I am very well. How are you? I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm looking forward to chatting about a lot of PPC stuff with you. But first of all, I want to go into a bit of your background. We met 7 or so years ago on 500 Startups when you came in as an advisor and advised a lot of the cohort companies then. I'd like to know a bit about you before then, and then we'll go into the PPC side of things.
Yeah.
So how did you start your career?
I've always liked marketing and sales and why, like understanding why people do things. Like even as a child, my parents had their own company. I was like making folders with them and like helping with their marketing as much as you do that for like a local business. So it was also always clear to me that my career would be in something like that. And I went and studied communication science because that is then what makes sense, because I knew I would learn the things that like really interest me. And I've actually many times have thought, maybe I should have gone and studied business. But I feel like I learned all the business things later.
Sure.
And I studied something I like really, really enjoyed. And then when I graduated in 2010, which is a long time ago, it feels like.
I graduated in 2003, so that's okay.
Very good, yeah.
I know it's not a competition.
So yeah, when I graduated, I actually joined Google as an account strategist, and that's how I then got into digital marketing. I've always loved like marketing and communications and like the science behind it. And then in working in Google, it was like, technology. Like my world basically was complete, because it's like one of my professors said, one of the marketing professors, he was like, half your marketing spend is wasted. The problem is you don't know which half. And I was like, yeah, marketing is great, but there's that one problem. And then I'm like, there's something called conversion tracking. That means that maybe you know which half of your marketing spend is wasted. And I'm like, and I just really, I had found my place basically.
And that's the final kind of part in the puzzle for you that made sense. Yeah. So 2010, when you graduated and went to Google, obviously they're a huge company at that point anyway, but what was going on at the time? What was kind of what was new and exciting within Google then? Considering we're now 12, 13 years past that, it'd be interesting to see, compare and contrast what was happening then versus what's going on now.
Yeah, it was already a huge company, but it was a very different time. Like at the time, I worked in like an account management team for like German, first mid-sized mid-market clients and then larger clients. But like at the time, what we did for clients was basically like we were almost like their agencies, and like really like we had fewer clients and we did a lot more work with them than like Google account managers do today, just because Google was also developing the market and had the resources to do that at that client level. And it was so nice to see so many different companies from the inside work with them. Even though,
I guess that's how they had to do it, really, because if Google said, look, log into our platform, just give us money and we'll sort it out for you.
Sort it out for you. People were like, no.
Yeah.
And so also for like, I mean, I had just graduated university and I have worked in agencies all throughout my studies. It's not that I was like completely new to like business, but still, all of a sudden I'm like advising clients on behalf of Google. Like that was really cool. And what somebody at the time, like one of the marketing leaders at Google or one of the sales leaders at Google at the time said is like, also think about what you can learn while you're here. Like if you're doing an MBA, like basically what you're doing is you're doing lots of case studies, and like you're basically like every client is a case study. Like you can learn so much from their business what's working, what's not working. Like it, for especially when I worked with like the mid-sized businesses, I would usually work with the business owner or with the founder, like
Right. Okay.
very closely with the leadership. So that was also a time where I just, I learned. I literally soaked up everything that I could.
And is that something you do a lot now? Do you tend to work with the founders and the owners of the business?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the clients. Like with some I work with some I work with the founders, or I work with the marketing people. But I think where my clients thrive, it's usually also where I at least have a relationship with the founders and like know what they're doing, and they also understand what I'm doing with the team. So
well, that's really interesting. Just to dig into that point a bit. So let us know how important it is, that relationship with the people, with your clients that you're working with, because that's a kind of huge indicator of success from my perspective.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've been in business for eight years now, and most of my clients came via referral and also came via, like from people that saying this is Christina. We highly trust her. Like work with her. So I already came with like advanced credibility, and that obviously is super, super helpful. Or also work with some of my clients, like the VP of marketing gets a new job, they go to the next company and they just bring me along. So there's always like really good relationships there. It's just really helpful because then when I make a recommendation, like I don't need to I don't need to do as much selling of the things, which I can. Like usually the things I say, I have data to prove them, but it's like it makes a lot of processes a lot shorter.
Sure.
And that's really helpful. And then also when it comes to like having like management buy-in on like things that we're trying to test, it's much easier if the leadership understands like how does digital work, how does PPC work, why do we need to make another landing page.
Yeah, I've worked with companies where they've been so far removed from whoever owns holds the purse strings, whoever has the final decision, even though I'm working potentially with the marketing manager or whoever's brought me into the team. And I'm saying, hey, this is what I want to do. And then it takes a few days for things to percolate to them and then to come back again. You're kind of like, we're wasting time, guys. So it's a difficult setup.
Yeah. And sometimes that is what it is. But then I think I always try to, even if I don't have that relationship, I always try to build it eventually.
Yeah.
And also obviously still working hand in hand with my day-to-day contact, because ultimately I want them to do well, but usually like I've had a few client relationships also where like I came in to the marketing team and then just like had a beautiful partnership with the people I worked with, where like we just like when we made presentations we just put both our names on it and everybody wins.
So what did you do after Google?
I joined a startup in Berlin called fab.com, where one of my my favorite Google colleagues had actually gone to. And at the time, my dad wasn't very well, and I was at Google in Ireland, and I wanted to move back to Germany.
Okay.
And that was kind of like, that was the trigger. And then I looked where I could go work, and then I was like, a startup in Berlin seems like a fun place.
Sounds great, yeah.
And it was a very fun place, I can tell you.
I mean, you've gone from like one of the world's biggest companies to a small company. How did that work for you? And I guess also how did that kind of form how you work with startups going forward and the different size companies going forward as well?
It was a very interesting place to work. Let's put it like that, because it had Fab, I think, had raised so much money at that point that like it wanted to be like a Google in terms of like, I mean, when I first went, like we started like the office was like semi nice, but like then we like rented like a really nice place on like the river, and like it was basically like a Google office. Like it had snacks, it had lunch, it had all the things. And I went, and I had worked like in smaller companies during university, but then I had only like my only real job was at Google, and I was used to when people make this, like usually when management makes decisions, like they are usually well thought out and quite smart. So when I then went to work at that company, I kind of thought the same thing, and it took like a year, I think, for me to be like, maybe not everything that is being done here is extremely smart. So it was a bit of a, I think that was my awakening to like, it's important to ask questions. If something sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Like at Google, I was very comfortable just like executing what I was told. And then at Fab, I learned that like it's important also to ask questions, to manage up, to have my own opinion, which also it's fine to go against what what kind of like what the mandate is if that really doesn't make sense. So it's like, it was really like my there are no grown-ups moment.
Okay. But I guess that's been really important for you, working with other clients going forward, is to question things.
Yeah.
And I've had it both ways, where clients have said, here's a whole load of money, you go spend it, and kind of like, hold on, wait, what we're going to do with it. Yeah. Versus the other side, where they're saying, we've got no money, can you make magic for us? And then the other side of things is like, well, come on. So so how does that work for you then, when you're trying to formulate a strategy or something to execute on?
I think I know that I am also one of the grown-ups, and
right.
Then I gauge the grown-up level of the person across from me, but I tend to work with people who are also grown-ups. Like if they're not, then I try to that's then not the best setup. And then it's just really like questioning what they're saying, and then also deciding what I think is the best way forward, and really finding that either I look at the data and I know what the thing to do is, or I know what the thing is that I want to do, and then I build the case for it by finding the data, and hopefully that supports it. And if the data doesn't support it, then I pivot it a little to what actually makes sense.
Fair play. And then after Fab.
Yeah, after Fab, I did a 6-month stint in another company that was not run by grown-ups, but they really tried to be, and it wasn't fun. And at the time, I mean, that was my third job, and my mother was like, you can stay with the devil for a year, and I was like, I don't think I can. So I left after 6 months, and then I joined Unique, which was kind of like a Fab spin-off in the affordable art space, and I joined, I think, as full-time employee number 4, and that was a very rewarding, fun, exciting time.
So were you one of the grown-ups then?
I was one of the grown-ups, and that was really cool. And I had very nice like co-grown-ups also. So I mean, but like when I left, we were 150 people. Like,
oh wow, yeah. It
was good, good growth, very exciting.
So why did you leave?
At some point it's just time, I feel like I had kind of like seen the company to where I could at that point. I also was about to get married, and we also knew that like our future wouldn't lie in Germany. So it was all like quite a natural moment.
Natural break point, yeah.
Not easy, but natural, yeah.
And is that when you made? You founded Capital C?
Yeah, I made Capital C. Also, kind of like grew with me. I moved to London, and originally was like, I'll just like take a little break and find another job. And then, while I was taking my break, different people who I had worked with in the past were like, "Oh, you're not working, Christina. Do you want to work for us, or would you like to do a project? Like, we need help with X, Y, Z." I'm like, "Sure." Somebody I knew from Google reached out because he had just won a big training contract with Microsoft on like doing PPC training for agencies. That's something that I've always wanted to do. So I was like, "Oh, nice." And then 3 months later, I'm like, I think I run a business now. Because then also moving to London, I got introduced into the 500 Startups network, like made lots of great connections there. That was really the start of it. And I've been working like, in the beginning I was more working freelance in being like almost like a fractional marketing resource in a lot of startups, and also doing a lot of trainings for both Microsoft and then also eventually Google. Like I met some like an old Google colleague like on a plane somewhere, like flying from Lisbon. I was at Web Summit in Lisbon, and I flew to Hamburg, and then I met like an old Google colleague on the plane, and she's like, "Oh, I do this training program. I need you." I was like, "Oh, this is a good coincidence. And then also, at some point, I was doing like a Microsoft training in Munich on like Thursday, Friday. Then I did like Google the week after in Berlin, and then the Monday after, I was like speaking at a Facebook event. Which this is what happened here. And then I had to fly back to Hamburg to do more Google. Like, oh, okay.
That's the perfect segue from working for other people to working for yourself. And I'm sure it sounds like you have the opportunity to maybe pick and choose your clients a bit more. So you're not kind of scrambling for companies you wouldn't necessarily want to work for, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I am fortunate like that, and that is also important for me to, I think, like what just love. Like I love what I do, but it's also because I make it how I want it, which is nice.
I really love the how you started off within Google as the change from account manager from when you started, when you were there, through to what it is now. When you were there, it was what I would do as a freelancer or in an agency, and managing the whole account and managing the money. Whereas account managers now, we have a call with an account manager like once a week for half an hour, and they merely suggest, hey, why don't you use our new product and spend money there, and hopefully that will work for us. Do you think you would have enjoyed it if you'd done the current version of account managing versus what you did?
I don't think so.
Right.
Because there's just no time. Now they don't, like, I don't think the Google account managers have a lot of time to like actually dig into an account.
Yeah.
Most of the recommendations that they have are also like machine generated, and there is a spectrum of quality, I think. I mean, we also know the ones that just we're probably the first client they ever call, and it's just like, I don't
You've no idea, mate.
But then there are also good ones who actually have been around for a while and know stuff and also understand businesses. But then still, like, I love working with like smaller clients. The reason I left Google was also because I wanted to kind of like own more of the value creation, because at Google, like I only see what's in the Google Ads account, which,
sure.
I mean, back in the day that there wasn't that much, but now there's so much more to see. Like I'm in the process of recreating like the onboarding documents that I share with new clients. And it used to literally be like, give me access to your Google Ads account and maybe to your Google Analytics. And now it's like, give me access to your Google Ads account. I need access to your CRM, have to build a reporting, all the things. But like, I also need all the things to make sure that what I'm doing is good. And if I am a Googler who has like half an hour a week for a client, I think that's already like a lot. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With one company I worked with, I was there for a year, and I was kind of disappointed that their approach to marketing within the whole team was they literally just wanted me to create the ads and send people to the landing page, and my main metric was clicks on the page. And no matter how much I kind of thought, to okay, what happens after the clicks? How many people are joining up? What happens? Is there a mailing list? All these kind of things. It really, really kind of frustrated me as a growth marketer rather than just a top of the funnel marketer. And eventually I left, but I still feel like a bit bitter, because I was like, I can do so much more than just get people to the page. So it sounds like with your, now you're going into the CRMs, you're going to HubSpot, Salesforce, all these things, and then you're tracking the journey through to revenue, I guess. Are you going that far down the funnel?
Yeah. That's, I think, ideally that's what everyone should do. But when I first speak to clients and I show them like a sample dashboard, I'm like, and here is how you on a campaign level with Google Ads can kind of like see like how much you spend per like pound or dollar of pipeline that you generate. And they're like, oh, you can do that? I'm like, it's all there. Like, just need to plug some things together in the back end. And I got the idea actually from a client who did all of this manually, like by pulling data out of HubSpot and then putting the spend against against it next to it. And she was like, but this was so painful. And I was like, I wish you had asked me, because I think I can just build a dashboard like that. And I was like, oh, nice. So then I built that dashboard, and I was like, I should probably build dashboards like that for all my clients. And
100%.
that was I think that was actually an aha moment for me, being like, whoa, like I can do something here that people get really excited about. There is still a lot of value in like setting up campaigns and managing them well, and I think we'll talk about that. But that value is also getting kind of like eroded by Google a little bit, because Google is like, give me your target CPA, give me your target ROAS, and then Google will do whatever.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you will hit those goals. That's also not always the case, but then Google will kind of pocket the difference in, like, for example, a performance max campaign if you run them, and that kind of like takes away from the value that I can actually create as a search or as a PPC marketer. So I have to find other ways to create value to also justify my existence to a certain point, and then I find that like a lot of the value that I create is actually by creating that visibility of like what is working and what is working all the way down funnel, because that's in B2B usually something that can't be tracked. And the other one is around landing pages and messaging and like the flow of the customer journey. Well,
again, that's going back to 50% of your marketing budget is wasted.
Yeah.
But you didn't know 50%. You didn't know which 50%. But now now it's down to maybe 10% or 5%. You can really cut that down to pretty much where everything's going as you want it to go to. You said the B2B word there, which is where I tend to work. How do you tackle B2B clients versus I guess B2C or direct to consumer? How do you set things up, and how do you kind of acknowledge the fact that the sales cycle is typically so much longer? There's typically lots more steps in the process, or more people have to approve, or all these kind of things.
I think I've narrowed down on B2B 2 years ago. Like a lot of it has always been at least half of my clients have been B2B clients, and then at some point it was like I cannot do a good job of managing like all types of campaigns for all types of clients, just because campaign types are so different, as you said, like live customer journeys are so different, and B2B is because of all the reporting stuff that I do somewhere where I know I can add a lot of value. So I also get really excited about complex products and complex audiences. So you're like, here's a toothbrush. I'm like, meh. It's like, here's an industrial cooler that cools or heats like a whole factory, and like that gets me very excited, because I'm like, how do you market that? And it's about understanding that, which I think that's also something that clients usually like, is like we actually make the effort to really understand their product. So I think that is step number one, is really understand their product, really understand their positioning. Often there's quite a bit of midwifery that has to happen in that process. Like ideally clients have done that work where they like have message market fit and they know how their customers talk, but often it's also like, so what do we say? And they're like, oh, we just say this. And I'm like, and what do customers say? And they're like, we must go find out. I was like, you must go find out yesterday.
Must go find out.
It's important. So that's understanding, that is step one. And then it's getting, getting really specific about what people actually search for in what stage, and where we want to play. Like, how much budget do we have? Does it make sense to go for kind of like, how some B2B companies, there is overlap with consumer search terms. Do we have the kind of money where we can afford to try that and see if we can pull out the right consumers? Yeah, I have clients who do, and I have clients who don't. And it is also about setting up conversion tracking that kind of like covers the different stages of the funnel. I mean, we can always everyone can track a lead does somebody submit a lead form, but then kind of like stitching HubSpot data back into Google Ads. And when I started doing this, I did this. I literally I found the GCLID parameters in HubSpot manually and uploaded them back into Google Ads as an offline conversion. And then I think like 3 years later, HubSpot was like, we now have like a conversion integration. I was like, thank you so much. So that is good. That out of the box thing works fine for lower funnel conversions. But then what I find is that a lot of my clients like use properties slightly differently. So then you need to actually go and create conversions with Zapier to make sure that you really pull in the right if you're using values, you pull in the right values. So yeah, it's like putting pushing as much relevant data back into Google Ads as possible, and that really depends on what the customer, what the customer journey is. But it is important. I think in order to make Google Ads work, it's crucial to have some kind of qualified lead coming back in, where like it's either an algorithm or a person has looked at the lead and has said this is a good lead, yes or no, because form fills can get very ugly very quickly. If you do like paid search only on like Google search with like exact match keywords, that's kind of like the best bet if you can't actually track these like further down the funnel lifecycle stages. But if you're like, we've done a test with a demand gen campaign and the results were just like abysmal in terms of lead quality. I mean, the Google Search Partner Network, you have to stay as far away from as possible, because I don't think I've ever seen anything good come from there, and I've looked really hard.
And that's one where it sets it up. It sends it to the Search Partner Network by default, doesn't it? If you
Yeah, I mean,
I've had campaigns where
when you set up a Google Ads campaign, and like it's like recommended. It's like
no.
Christina does not approve of this.
I mean, these are the kind of conversations we have with the account managers.
Yeah.
First of all, hey, we've got PMax. You should use PMax, and you're like, why? It's because it's our new thing. Why don't you use it? And I'm sure it works for some cases, but it didn't work for what we were trying to do. But I'm glad that people like yourself are not just rolling back and saying, yeah, let's do the new thing. You're actually going back and
I'm not doing the new thing until you show me a case study of the new thing actually working for what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
This is it. And broad match keywords now, at least when I went deep into it, that's one of the things they're really trying to push. But if you're saying like exact match for the exact case, this is the best chance we have with especially the longer life cycle companies, then I feel vindicated many times.
Yeah. And I mean, there is like exact match keywords, like they will be expensive in terms of cost per click, but now like the way that match types have changed over the last 2 years, really, especially if you don't have conversion, like if you have a lot of conversion data to go by, fine. Like the campaign, strong conversion data, the campaigns will optimize themselves. But like if you don't, and in the beginning as a B2B company, you will not, because your leads will be expensive. So you need to do some dialing in work first. Like even a phrase match, like if you look at the search queries that come from phrase match keywords, like it's now showing for competitor keywords. Like that's a different campaign. Like now a lot of the work that I do is putting like negative keywords in places. It's called traffic sculpting, because Google thinks it's smarter, but it's actually not. And it's just like sending search queries to a campaign that clearly belong in a different one. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Could have done without that, but here I am.
I feel honored that someone who's worked within Google and then gone to working in the industry independently is finding the same kind of struggles where it makes no sense your way. I'm going to keep doing it my way because I can make sure I can track it better, and that's where, again, this is where you kind of add value specifically. Whereas if you were just doing a PMax campaign, you just switch it on, give it the assets it needs, and you'd walk away for 3 weeks, and then you come back and hopefully it works all right. In which case,
which I think in e-commerce, like there are cases where it does, right?
Yeah.
In B2B, I have not seen one.
Yeah,
I know of lead gen things where if I have an adventurous client where I have exhausted all other options, I think I might retest it with like the recipe is like a very strong first party audience. If you have like a buyer, like almost like a good list of buyers, and the right conversion signal, I think that I'm an adventurous client that's like, let's try, like, this budget is either going away or we use it, that type of scenario. I think then if that comes along, I'll test it again, because that's what I've heard, like via I've heard that could be working. But I have not tested, I've never tested PMax on my own B2B clients, because that's like malpractice.
I like it. I like that term. It's malpractice. the worst way to do things for your business. I like, yeah, I mean, you care about your business, you care about companies you work with. If it's a company you care about, and I can understand that, but that's what I find with a lot of people who I'm talking to for this podcast, is that they really care about the companies they work with, no dickheads policy, etc. And that goes both ways. It's in their best interest, it's in your best interest to make sure you're doing the best for them. I love it.
Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? Also, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this podcast is called Aha Moments Podcast, and we ask you 3 questions, aha moment questions. So the first one is, based on a company or service you work for, do you have any aha moments for companies or products or services that you work for, and how did you engage your customers and clients to get to that aha moment as soon as possible, as quickly as possible?
Like, you and I know that if you do a B2B campaign and you put a big book a demo sticker on the landing page, conversion is probably not going to be great. But with clients, this is an idea that's very hard for them to process sometimes. So it's like, how do I get my clients to see that? And also, how do then have kind of like their marketing evolves to a good place from that? And something that we did with one client, and that has really changed everything, was when we put watch a quick demo video instead, because to the leadership, this is still a demo booking, so it's very easily digestible, but it takes away all the drama of, have to actually speak to a human when you're maybe not ready and you really just want to find out whether this product is a good fit for you. So that, I think, that was a big aha moment, because then the person is in the CRM and they can get nurtured, but they also have a good idea whether the product is a fit for them or not. And I think that's, the way that B2B marketing is evolving is really, really important. I mean, the book a demo thing, that was problematic 5 years ago, but it's, I think, only getting more and more problematic over time, where like you also mentioned it earlier, buyer committees are getting larger and larger. People are doing a lot of their research in dark social or offline or somewhere that's not trackable. And Gartner released a study recently where they said now the short lists are becoming shorter and shorter. So it's people want to have all the information, and if you don't give them all the information, they'll just go elsewhere. I was also buying software, and recently for a client, I was looking at brand tracking software, and I don't want to go on 10 demos to find out what the things cost. I want to have a table, and then I want to speak to the ones that really appeal to me. But it's shocking that I can't find that information on the internet. Basically, I need to actually go and speak to people. So then I obviously only speak to the ones where I know they're going to be they are a potential match for me. And that's, I think, where a lot of B2B business still need to catch up their thinking.
I think I like that, because if you're considering 10 people and each book a demo is at least half an hour, then so how do you actually carve that time in a day?
Yeah.
How long is a quick video in your opinion?
I think the one that we started with was 10 minutes, but it could be even faster.
Yeah.
There's also the whole idea of consumption will eventually lead to conversion. So you don't, just tell people what they want to know, and if they like it, they will convert. It's maybe the things that we're doing where we're we must get someone's information. And that's a bit outdated also.
Well, I was speaking to someone recently, or a few people recently, and they've got, creating a lot of content, and they're saying okay, we need to gate it. And I was like, why do you need to gate it exactly? So because we want to get the details. Are you getting thousands of leads that you can't cope? And they're like, no. I was like, well, there's no real benefit of hiding the content that people have found you for, and then making them give. And even if it's just a first name and an email, it's still you're making me give up something before I can read the data from you. So I told them one of my biggest wins I ever had was I made an 8,000 word report, and I put the whole thing on a page on the website. So first of all, it got SEO boost. It got SEO because I really researched into this one piece, and then multiple times in that piece, I said, by the way, if you want to download this as a PDF, you can do. Here's the details, but otherwise, keep on reading. And so many people did sign up because they just thought I was going to read this as a PDF. But everything was there so that you could absorb it, and I wasn't hiding anything. And this is what I said to them, just share everything, make it super simple for them to read and like get to trust you, because that's the thing, is you need to get them to trust you as soon as possible before they can then take the next step. I'm not sure if they've done it, but that's what I'd recommended.
Yeah, that's now also what I recommend, but that's also where like a bit of a paradox comes in for me almost, because then how do I know that half of my marketing spend is not wasted if I'm tracking these things, right? And that's like, this is me, like 2024, 2025 is the big kind of like twist that's happening. Is like, it used to work really well for a long time, this whole like, let's click and track everything. And now it's like, maybe there's more nuance to this than I actually like, and then I've always known. But I think that's a bit the way of the world. I don't know how you think about that.
I mean, things change all the time. I never want to say categorically what's black and white, but with these guys, for example, if they had too many leads and their main challenge was lead scoring and making sure that only the top leads were coming through, and even then if the top leads were exactly who they wanted, then fine, gate it. At that point, we don't know where their bottleneck is. We don't know where their rate limiting step is. If it's right at the top of the funnel, then don't stop people getting your data. If the rate limiting step is further down the funnel, then maybe there's opportunities to play with the conversion at the top to make sure that only the best people come through, to then see how that affects further down the funnel, I think. But I guess it does depend on each company. Second aha moment question. What aha moments have you had in products or services that you buy and that you love? And what were the like moments that made you think, oh, I need this, I need to buy this?
For my whole career, I've always been kind of like going back between Microsoft and Apple, and I've always I'm an Excel girl, so I have a Microsoft computer, but then I have an iPhone because I want to, and then I also have like AirPods because they're very handy. And at some point last year, I got so annoyed by like my headphones never connecting, and then there's always drama with audio, and then I was like, just somebody told me like, when you have a Mac, like you just your technology just like your headphones just adapt to the machine you're using. It's like, I want that. And then so simple, like it's like, and then also I was at South by Southwest and people were talking about the Apple Vision Pro, and I was like, this is the time. And then my friend was like, and then when you have your iPad, you can also just use it as your second screen. And like I usually, because I've always traveled a lot, like doing trainings and stuff, like I usually logged around like a second like USB-C monitor.
Oh, wow.
Because, and it's a thin one. It's not like a full desk situation, but still like, I was like, oh, I can just use my iPad to do that. I mean, that Apple probably has given a lot of people a lot of aha moments, but those were very big ones for me. And I have not looked back, basically.
So the way the Apple ecosystem works together is like
my aha moment.
Is the aha moment. Yeah. Because I don't have AirPods. I don't really like the look of them. I'm sure they're great, but everything else. So my Apple Watch is always connected by Bluetooth. My everything else, my iPad, MacBook, always work amazingly together. But then my earphones, my earbuds are just like, takes a while to connect sometimes, and it goes now we're gonna I'm like, don't want to disconnect, we don't want to connect right now, Kobi, try back in 5 minutes. I'm like, fuck's sake, can you just so I get it, and I know it's somehow they make the Bluetooth experience seamless for their own products, but this is a hill I'm going to die on. I just don't want to get the Apple ones, but I get it. It's when you just don't want to, you just want to make your life easier, and the whole ecosystem is easy. It works together easily, doesn't it? But
then I did make my life harder last year by getting a Garmin, like switching from Apple Watch to Garmin, and that I mean, it does. The reason I got it is because I don't want to get lost in the woods. Like, it does that job, but like Garmin Pay does not, like, it only worked with like one card I had, and that stopped working. So now I'm like back to using my phone when I take the train, which is that's just sad. But maybe I'll need to look into the Apple Watches again. Who knows?
Well, what I do is I use the Apple Watch for like 95% of things I do, but then I have a Garmin for when I doing activities. So it is, and it's a really old garment. It's like 10 years old, so it has none of the Apple Pay anything in it. And it's literally just for recording swim cycles or runs, and then I upload it to Strava when I get home. But it's
that is the way. I like for like running or like doing like hikes. Like the map is just I don't know. I haven't found good on the Apple Watch, so that's why I'm like, Garmin is very good at that.
Yeah,
so maybe.
But it is a beautiful thing to. This is such a first world problem, but it's still important. But the fact when last time I went to London, going in the underground, just swiping with my watch, and then the next day, because I hadn't brought my charger with me, the watch wasn't working. So I was like, oh god, I gotta get my phone out and do the swipe.
Yeah, my friend, like my friends have a child. I mean, a lot of my friends have children. That child is like, if you say pay, the child goes like this, because that's how the parents pay, by like holding their wrist to things. The child doesn't know money. The child doesn't know cards. The child goes meh.
And what's a personal aha moment for you? One that you recommend, or a life hack maybe?
I am obsessed with systems for everything and creating structures for everything. So I wanted to. I actually last night went to a book club because there's a book that I've wanted to read for a long time, and it's called Women Who Run with the Wolves. Like it's a brilliant book, but it's a very hard read.
Yeah.
And then somebody like locally was like, I'm doing a book club about it, and I was like, oh, then I will join this book club and read this book. And every week I kind of like ask myself the same like review journaling questions that I write about, and I learn so much from them. It's like if I have a problem, I create a structure to solve it. It's like, okay, if things are not going the way I want them to go, then I try to figure out why, and then create something, like it's a meeting, an accountability system, whatever, to help me do that.
So it's like self-regulation loop, kind of feedback loop for yourself.
Feedback loop for myself.
Yeah. And how do you keep a track of that? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people who like swear by journaling. That's something in my head I know I won't keep up with it, so it's not something I'm going to start doing. But how do you make it work for yourself, or how do you make sure you're checking back in with the feedback loop on a regular basis? It's
a Sunday night thing where I make the time somehow. It's like not like my day has more hours than others, but like it's important, and it's like I also learn good things. Like there is also gratification in it, because I go back to like, oh, what did I write last week? Like, what did I say my goals were for the week? Oh, what did I learn? And I have so many good things that I kind of like discovered because of that. If you write down, like, if you like, what did not go well this week, and you write down the same thing 3 times, like the 4th time I will do something about it, because it really annoys me to write it down. And like sometimes, but it's seeing those patterns.
It's like you're using yourself as your own customer. Like we talk about speaking to your customer, and if 3 customers say the same thing in the same way, then you're like, okay, this is something we need to address. I like that. That might have unlocked a thing for me. I am my own customer.
Maybe that's a good aha moment.
Yeah, I am my own customer. Christina, thanks so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Can you tell everyone where we can find you? Are you happy for people to contact you on LinkedIn and get in contact with capital C if they want PPC help?
LinkedIn is the place where I am most active on the internet, and then there's also my website, capitalc.agency. Both of those are good places to reach me, and I'm looking
fantastic.
forward to connecting.
I'll link to those in the show notes, and also in the comments if you guys are watching on YouTube, if you want to connect with Christina directly. But yeah, Christina, thanks so much.
Thank you, Kobi.
Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode. It means a great deal to me, and I'd like to thank Christina again. Thank you, Christina, for joining me on this episode. It's been great to talk to you about all things PPC and digital marketing, and B2B in particular. If you're listening, want to get in contact with Christina, her LinkedIn details are in the show notes, as is the link to her company, capitalc.agency. Tell her you found her through this podcast. I'm sure she'd love to know that. That's it for me for now. Thank you very much for listening again. Please do all the things that podcasters and YouTubers ask you to do. Please share with your friends. Please share with a family member. Like, subscribe, comment, review. Hey, share with people. Sharing is caring. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next episode.